Welcome to How the Blank, brought to you by What the Blank, and today is Dada Day.
Dada Day!
Da da.
Da da. Well, happy Father's Day, guys.
Happy
Happy
Father's
Father's Day.
Day. It's not mine.
It ain't yours.
It
I
ain't
got no
yours.
da da.
Happy not the Father's Day?
Not the mama, not the mama.
Dude, I love that show.
I do too.
It's
I
so
love the meme.
funny. Not the mama.
Dude, that show is actually really interesting.
Yeah?
Because it actually it shows the dad a lot. Like, having to go through that job constantly and, like, go back to his home life, and his kids are brats, and his wife is always struggling with the baby, and, like, just all this crap at his job and everything, too. That's a pretty good reference for what goes on with, like, blue-collar workers nowadays.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, the father kind of keeps the family together in
Yep.
that show. And it's because he's still passionate after a long day,
Oh, yeah.
right? And I think that's what makes a good father.
Oh, yeah.
You know, someone that works hard but still supports the family.
Yep.
And they can even support the family at home. Like,
Yep.
I know a lot of people now that are doing the stay-at-home fathers because
Yep.
their jobs are either they either don't have one and the mother has a really great job, or the father's job is like late at night or something
Yep.
they can do online where they can still support their family from home.
Yeah.
And it's such a great opportunity, right, for a lot of those kids, because they have that full time with their dad.
Yep.
Right. With being in a divorce family where I hardly ever saw my dad, I still had a great relationship with him, but I never really I saw him 4 times a year.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, in
That's
that
hard.
development, right, I didn't have that time.
Mm.
Right.
Interesting.
So yeah, like, it just made things different. So Brandon, who was your dada?
Who's your daddy?
Who's
No,
your
I haven't. So, my real biological father, I have no idea who he is, what he looks like, what his name is, nothing.
Oh,
His name's Bob.
fatherless.
Fatherless
Fatherless Bob.
No. So after I was born, I was pretty much given to my grandparents almost instantly, and so my grandpa became basically my father. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we were really close, almost inseparable most of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, you were telling us, like, the story about how, like, your grandpa was, like, such a prankster, such a
Yeah.
tease, and like, how what was the Christmas one where he, like, swapped out his own?
Yeah, he would open Christmas presents early, and he had like really sharp pocket knife that he kept just for this occasion, where he would cut the wrapper in a spot where like you couldn't see that it was cut, and he'd unfold it so carefully, and then he'd take his new present out or the most famous case was a new Zippo lighter. He'd take it out a month early, and then put his old lighter that he didn't use back in the case, and then wrap it up, and you wouldn't be able to tell because the incision in the paper was so precise. And so
Wow.
he'd be using his new lighter for almost a whole month, and then he'd open his old one on Christmas.
And no one would even know?
No one would know until that moment.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
That's a funny little story, dude.
So that's where you got your sense of weird humor, your grandpa.
I'm not weird.
Yeah, not
Uh-huh.
weird.
Not weird at
Uh-huh.
all.
Yeah, yeah. You have any other stories or what? Why are you looking at me like I'm weird?
Well, you are weird, but
We're all weird here.
You got the tism.
We all got the tism, except Braxton apparently.
Yeah.
I've been tested, like, negative for it, so
That's what they all say.
That's what they all say.
We're
Oh,
gonna go pick up a new test for Braxton. Actually. He's gonna pick up some milk. while
you
I'm
should
out.
do it.
Yeah,
Go
I'm gonna
te-
go get some milk and the tism test. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, we'll
Bye,
see you
Brandon.
we'll see you in a minute. Good luck. Dang, dude. So like my my dad and I, we never had like the strongest relationship when I was growing up, probably like early teens maybe, and like mid-teens. That was like the worst of our relationship because my dad and I, we always struggled like coming to terms with like beliefs and like teaching styles and learning, because I had a learning disability growing up too. And I mean, yeah, we joke about the tism, but it was more like ADD.
Yeah.
And I had such a hard time just paying attention, especially to like mundane things that I never really just cared about, like especially with school. And so my dad, like, I get it. He always tried to push me and push me and push me to do really good in school. And anytime that I was like struggling or falling behind in school, and my report cards would come back, and it would show like a D on one of my, like, okay, for example, when I was in 7th or 8th grade, I got a D minus in my math grade
Oh.
in one semester or quarter or something like that. Whenever you get your report cards
Terms,
back.
yeah.
Terms, yeah. And so I got that back, and I tried to hide it from my dad, and because I didn't want him to see it, because I knew he'd be pissed about it. And I tried to hide it from him for days, and eventually it caught up to me. He's like, Jackson, where's your report card? I haven't seen it in days. I've seen your sisters. I've seen everyone else's. What happened to yours? I'm like, it probably got lost. I don't know. And I was just trying to play it off like, I don't know where it went. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. See, I woke up this morning and this song was flipped over.
And he ended up finding it in my room, and he saw that it had a D plus on it, and he got so pissed, dude. I think he grounded me for like 2 days or something like that, and he tried to take my keyboard away, like my little piano keyboard.
Your nice one?
No, this was like an older
Okay.
crappy one, but to me it was nice. Like I loved playing on that thing. It was actually new to me at the time. I was like 13 or 14 or whatever it was, and he tried taking it away. He unplugged it. He started taking it out of the room, and dude, I just broke down. I was so mad. I was like, "There's no way that this guy's taking this thing away from me." So I cried, dude. And I was like actually gonna run away from home about that.
Wait, really?
Yeah, dude, I was gonna run away from home over a stupid keyboard, over a freaking piano, dude. I was so mad about it. Like I was so like broken, and but he was also like a really good guy in the way that when he knew he overstepped boundaries in a way that like he knew that like he hurt us like mentally and emotionally, he would always come back later and apologize, which I actually really respected that, because like some days he'd say really mean things, or he'd like say something that hurt me or whatever it was, and then like hours later he'd come back and he'd be like, dude, I'm so sorry about what I said and what I did. I know that wasn't right. I shouldn't have done that. And like obviously like even to this day sometimes I still think about things like that. But even remembering like, oh well, he still came back and apologized because he knew that it wasn't right, like that still allowed me to still think like, well, he's not a terrible person, And years later, we ended up getting a much better relationship, and we've been able to bond a lot more over a lot of things. Like we go off-roading all the time, we go shooting all the time, and I've been wanting to go hunting with him eventually when I can get my hunting license. But those are like some of the things that, like, we tried to go hunting one time when I was like 7 or 8 back in Missouri, where Brandon and I used to hang out on our property. And I remember we went out to the hunting grounds on our property. It was like this big campground, and he wanted to teach me how to go hunting, but he didn't give me a gun. He gave he gave me a knife. He just gave me a knife, and I'm sitting up there in this freaking in this deer stand with this little knife in my hand, and he's sitting there. He's like, "Okay, Jackson, you got to be really quiet because we're looking for deer." And I'm sitting there like, "Okay." I'm like screaming and like laughing really loud. I'm like being a dummy. And eventually, there's this deer that comes bounding out of these bushes and these weeds, and it just stops. And my dad raises the gun up. He's getting ready to pull the trigger, and he looks at it for a second. And then he looks at me, and he looks back at it, and he's like, I can't do this. And he puts it down. And I was like, what are we doing? He's like, I don't want to kill this deer right now. And I was like, what the heck? And so after that day, I don't really know why he didn't actually do that. But years later, he told me that it's because he didn't want to go through cleaning it. He just didn't want to put me through the process of cleaning it out. I was like, what? You literally went through that whole thing just because you didn't want to kill it and then clean it and gut it, dude. That was the funniest thing.
I thought this was going to turn into like some sentimental thing where it's like, no, I didn't want to kill it in front of you and watch you see the first thing die in front of your eyes.
Dude, no, that's the funny thing though, is that my dad and I, like, we always had to kill smaller animals on our property because we had chickens that we were raising. He always put me in charge of the chickens because we ended up being chicken farmers. And so we had a whole coop, and Brandon kind of remembers this maybe, but we had a whole.
If he ever comes back.
If he ever comes back, dude, we can ask him if he ever shows up.
Oh, I just want some milk.
But
Yeah.
but anyway, so like we had this this big chicken coop that we actually built. I helped my dad build this, and we put this whole chicken coop together. We got I think almost 100 chickens at some point, and we had all these chickens in this coop, and we had to take care of them. And my job was to scoop out the chicken coop, like all the poop and everything, and then re-hay it, put all the hay back in it, and
Hey, get in there.
yeah, basically. And they were free roam chickens as well. Like they only had like a small area where they were allowed to go in, and then we would let them out throughout the day, and then we'd put them back in the coop at night. And they were so smart at some point. Like chickens are so stupid, but it was kind of smart the way that they would go out and then come back in later in the night because they knew that that's where it was safe. And we had possums and raccoons and coyotes that would always try to get to them. And so he had to teach me like if there's ever a possum or a raccoon that tries to get into that coop and you hear the chickens like going crazy, that's because they're in danger. So go take care of the danger, right? And so we always would have to go out and take care of that danger because we wanted to protect our chickens because that's where we got our eggs, that's where we got our food at the time because we were struggling so bad at the time. Like it was really hard for him being a father and being a husband and providing for us at the time because this was during the recession in 2008.
Yeah.
And this was the hardest part of all of it. And even after that, like there were still residual problems that we all had as a family out there in Missouri because it was so hard for him because he was a real estate agent at the time. And he was also trying to also run his architecture business at the same time. But during that time, it was almost impossible because no one was buying houses. No one wanted to build new houses. And so he had really low business.
No one could afford
No one could afford anything. And it was so impossible for him to provide for us. And so that was where we got our food, was literally just rice, a little bit of cereal here and there, and our chickens. That's where we got our food. And then we started our own garden. We had our own garden and everything. And so that, it worked out for a while, but it just was not sustainable long term. But when I was about 15, he pushed me to the freaking end in getting my Eagle Scout because that was one thing I knew that he was super proud of me for, was getting my Eagle Scout. And that's one thing I know that he really, really wanted me to do. And I know he wanted me to go on a mission really bad when I was turning 18 at the time, but I just wasn't having it at the time, and he and I had a really bad relationship.
It wasn't meant for you.
It just wasn't. It just wasn't my thing, and so I just never went. And that's one thing he's always been kind of held a grudge against was because of that. But that's expected. But and I feel bad about things that I've done, and I have put him through hell in the past so many years I've been alive. And there's been things I regret doing and saying to him and whatever. But
please forgive me.
In the end, it's turned out pretty good up to this day, and like I remember when he would try to teach me how to do certain things, like when I was growing up, especially when it came to my scouting, he was actually my scout leader.
See that? That's a Boy Scout salute.
He was
out of 4 scouts. Because you're in the middle of Missouri, right?
Well, so we actually had quite a big group.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah, there was I think there was 10 of us.
Oh wow,
10 of us
that's pretty good.
Our, yeah,
in the
10 of us
Midwest.
in our group, and it was actually really cool because my dad was the one that actually started it out there in that area because they didn't have a scouting group where we were. And when we showed up, he started the entire scouting program. He started the entire young men's program in the church, and he actually did a lot of really good stuff out there. Like he's always been an inspiration to me in a way because he's the type of person that like when he wants to do something, he's gonna do it and he's gonna set it up. And he started a big Jeeping group out here in St. George when he moved down here. He's been guiding all the Jeep trails out here for like winter 4x4 and the big one that they do in September. I can't remember what it's called, but they started out at San Paulo.
Adventure or something like that.
No, it's I'll remember the name later, but
Okay.
it's like this big off-road adventure that hundreds of people come all the way from across the country and even some people from across the world just to do.
Oh wow.
And my dad's guided those tours before, and that's like something you have to be really good at doing. And so, but like growing up, like he taught me like so many things, and especially when it came to my scouting and my Eagle Scout, like he was always there, and so I couldn't fake it. Like a lot of these other kids that I was around, like they would always just fake it and pretend, but like I couldn't because my dad, he was there with me at scouts. He was there with me at church. He was there with me at home. And so he knew if I was BSing, like he was the one pushing me through all of it. So any merit badge that I did, I had to do it through him. anytime I did anything at all through the church, I had to do it through him. And so everything came down to him always being there. And so I got used to just having to deal with, like, my dad's always there. I have to make sure I do this properly, or else I might get caught if I don't do it.
Was your dad ever like a leadership in the church, like bishop or anything? Or
No, he was never that high up in the church. I think the highest he's ever been in the churches since I've been alive, at least as far as I know. I don't know if he's ever been part of the bishopric, but I know for a fact he was just young men's leader.
Okay.
Yeah, that's as far as I know. At least he might have had some other higher up position. I don't know though. That'll be something I'll have to ask him later. But yeah, I mean, dude, like getting my Eagle Scout was one of the hardest things that I did growing up. Even though I've done a lot of really hard things, like I've worked at scout camps in the middle of the Tetons and Yellowstone for like 6 summers or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. That I loved doing that. I actually loved being able to get away from my family for a summer. Like not to say like that in a mean way, but it was nice being able to get the experience away from family. So then I got the experience and understanding like, okay, well, this is what it's like when you're away from your family. So,
I love you guys. Bye.
yeah, basically, like that's how it was every summer. But then at the end of the summer, I'd come home and I'm like, oh, I'm so happy to see you guys, blah blah blah. But then the next summer, come around, I'm like, okay, bye. You know what I mean? But like getting my Eagle Scout was the hardest thing, man. And he was the one who pushed me through it. Like I remember this one day.
What was your project?
So I did a historical plaque in this tiny town called Jameson, Missouri.
Okay.
And I built this plaque, and I had a couple of my buddies that I knew at the time. I built this little plaque, and I actually did all the research with my mom. My mom and I went to the local library in our town, and we found all of the history of that town, dude. And Jesse James robbed a train in that town.
Oh, nice.
Stole a train in that town, robbed them, and dude, like Jesse James was like a huge part of that town back then.
Oh, huge part of the Midwest in general.
Dude, he was a big deal back then, and so he was like a celebrity in that town. Like everyone talked about him. And so I made this whole plaque. It was like 2,000 words or something like that. But when I was coming up with the paper that you have to write with your report on your Eagle Scout before you submit all the papers, you have to write all these papers and all these things and submit all these papers, whatever, for it. I didn't want to do it. And dude, I remember one freaking night, my dad recorded this video of me, and I want to see if I can find it from him so he can post it up there, just because it's so embarrassing for me at now. Like when I think about it now, I'm like, that was so stupid. But I cried because I didn't want to freaking write this stupid paper.
But I don't want to.
I was crying for like 10 minutes, dude. Dude, and I was like 15. I was like 15 crying about this stupid paper that I didn't want to write. And he's sitting there recording me. He's like, Jackson, why don't you want to write this paper? I'm like, I don't want to do it right now. I was like so tired and just mad about it. But in the end, like everything came out pretty well because, you know, he guided me through everything. And even though like, yeah, I didn't have the greatest relationship with him just because of some other, you know, issues that we had, but at the same time, he's always been a huge inspiration to me. And he's always been a big motivation for me to actually be more of a man than I am, because like sometimes I feel like I'm not enough. You know what I mean? And when I see like all the stuff that he's done in his past, and he's built his own businesses and he's done all these things, and I'm like, I could be like that too. Like I have that DNA in me.
Yeah, you are Knuff.
Knuff?
Yeah, Knuff. Have you seen the Barbie movie?
Oh, the new one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it, but I don't get the reference.
That's what he wears at the end. I am Knuff.
Oh, Knuff. Oh, okay. I get Knuff. I get it now, dude. That was so weird. I was like, what are you talking about? Knuff.
No, but it seems like your dad really taught you how to provide, how to protect, and how to kind of be who you are, you know?
Yeah, for the most, I mean, dude, he did a lot. Like, he did teach me a lot, but, like, dude, like, growing up and actually being, like, an adult now, it's like, oh, my gosh, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Like, dude, when I was growing up, I was like, oh, this is going to be super easy. But now I'm here, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. No, see, for me, my dad's taught me a lot, too.
Yeah.
Like, with my parents being divorced, right? Like what I said earlier, like I had to kind of learn all my life lessons from my dad, like during the summers that I would come, and it would be these like moments of like really struggle, right? Not against my dad, but like against other things.
Yeah.
Where like one time it was, so he lived in Arizona, right? And this is like Phoenix area, and it was middle of summer, and they started giving me chores, because my mom didn't really like giving chores for some reason. I don't remember
interesting.
why.
Huh.
But my dad and my stepmom were like, "No, you need to learn these
Yeah.
skills, right? Or you're never going like when you move out, you're gonna not know nothing, you know?
Gonna not know nothing.
Gotta not know nothing." But uh, but so one day I was supposed to mow the lawn, and my dad's like, "Do it early in the morning or you're
Yeah.
gonna roast." And I didn't. I waited and waited.
Yep.
And he came back from his lunch break and he was like, "Dude, come on." And so I did it, and I did a terrible job. I didn't like mow the lawn super well, so he had me do it again. And he's like,
Oh.
"I want you to have pride in your work."
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't like the like manly pride, right, where it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm so proud," but it's more,
At least,
I
yeah.
I want you to be proud that you did this job,
Yeah.
right? And you should do nothing that doesn't make you proud.
Amen.
Yep.
And that was like a life lesson that like was so important to me. That's actually one of the reasons why I didn't get my eagle, is
Oh, wow.
because I like kept putting projects out, and they're like, "No, they wouldn't be approved. It wouldn't be approved." And I was like, "Okay, then I'm not doing my eagle
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be proud of this work."
Doing something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, cause I was gonna set up a 5K, and they're like, "No, that wouldn't work."
That's weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was kind of in the weird transition of the Eagle. They were making the Eagle Scout project more of a community
Oh.
driven thing.
When was this?
This was
This was probably around the same time that I
yeah,
was doing mine.
2014,
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah, it's the same time that I did mine.
Yeah, they were kind of changing stuff up where they
Yeah.
wanted it very community
Yeah,
based.
and that's why I did the plaque, because it had to be community associated.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be like something that just benefits
Yeah.
a random like company or something, because
Yeah.
that's what I was gonna do.
Yeah.
Like donate it, right? But it's fine, you know.
It is what it is.
But that's one thing that I love about my dad, is that he was always like so compassionate to me.
Yeah.
Even from hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away. He would always make sure that I was happy where I was,
Yeah.
right? Even though he had to work every day while I was there during the summer, he would always try to make the afternoons about spending time, right? And we'd watch shows together and do that fun stuff. But like one time he took us boating,
Oh, that's
you
fun.
know, like just to have those fun moments, right? And I think that's what's so cool, is my dad made up for the time that he missed,
Oh,
right? I remember this one day where I was telling my stepmom that I feel like I don't have a great relationship with my dad, and she yelled at me.
How dare you!
She was like, "Your father does so much
Wow.
to try to spend time with you, try to do all these things, but things are difficult with your mom and other stuff, and we can't always provide exactly what you need, but your father tries his darn best."
Yeah.
She did not say darn, but it was like in that moment, I was 14 at the time, right, where I was like, I'm gonna make every moment count with my father,
Yeah.
right? Like whether it is just sitting on the couch, whether it is just doing small things with my dad.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that has impacted me forever, right?
Wow.
I love my father, and I'm so grateful for him, and I wouldn't be the person I am without him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he does so much for me, and helps me achieve my dreams.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, it was fun talking about our fathers.
Yeah. Dude, what the heck happened to this guy?
I know. What happened to Brandon?
Why did he not come back?
He didn't bring back the milk.
Oh, man.
Well, thanks for watching anyway. Thanks for watching How the Blank. This was How the Father's Day.
Dada.
The Dada.
Not the mama, not the mama.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Spotify.
Yep, and we have our website, so if you want to reach out and get any projects done or work with us on anything at all, go to our website at whattheblank.org.
Yeah, and please follow us for more updates on the Kim Project.
Yep.
We are currently going to go from the last week of June to the very last week of July. So please sign up and get a spot while you can.
Get it now while it's still hot.
Yeah. All right.
Alrighty.
Bye.
God, dude, my diaphragm hurts.
My face hurts.
I'm Brandon.